Valley High School. I am also a docent at the Dalton Discovery Center, which is part of the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, and I'm a Eucharistic minister and lector at St. Peter the Apostle Church. I am running for the school board because I am an advocate for strong neighborhood public schools, and I want to make sure that Collier attracts and retains quality school teachers. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lichter, and I'm running for the Collier County School Board District 1. Before moving to Naples in 2006, I was a teacher. I was really involved in education and coaching. When I moved down here to teach high school, I met my husband and then became a mother. It was then when my perspective on education truly changed. I also believe that the future and success of this country depends on strong public education. I started looking at our neighborhood schools and what were we teaching our kids. What I found was that the current utilitarian model of education is not what I wanted for my children. So what I did was I partnered with the finest charter school initiative in the nation and brought school choice to Naples. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years, volunteering my time to improve the public schools here in Collier County. After talking with hundreds of parents, I found that they too desperately want more for their children. They want an education that focuses on the knowledge and virtues and promotes character. I hope you will support me as we move forward. Please vote on August 26th for Kelly Lichter in District 1.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Winge, and I'm running for Collier County School Board District 1. I've lived in East Naples my whole life, right in the heart of District 1, and my family's lived in Collier County since 1928. I graduated from Barron Collier High School in 2011, which means I'm the only candidate who's been through the school system, is a product of it, and has sat behind a desk right here in Collier County. I've taken the FCAT. I know what students go through every single day. That gives me the experience that no board member, current or currently here this evening, has to represent the best interests of students, parents, and teachers from Marco to Immokalee and from North Naples to Everglades. We have over 44,000 students here in Collier County, and my first question and my last question on every issue will be, how does it affect them? That's what I'm in this for. I'm not running because of personal opinions, issues, or interests. I'm in this for the best interest of the people of Collier County, because I'm here to listen and I'm here to lead. That's what local government is all about, putting people first, not themselves. I encourage you to vote for me on August 26th, and I hope that you all enjoy the forum here this evening. Thank you.
My name is Luis Bernal. I am running for the School Board District 3. I'm running because I am a product of and a strong believer in public education. I have years of volunteer service to education in Collier County through the schools, the Education Foundation, and the school district. My wife and I have a son who attends a middle school and will graduate in a public school in our county. Did you know that 47% of the students in Collier County are Hispanic or Latino? As an immigrant myself, I want to bring that perspective to school board discussions and decisions. I will work with the other board members for a school district able to reduce the achievement gap among students, produce kids who are career or college ready, and engage families, business, and the community at large. My years of experience as an international business and organizational improvement consultant will be instrumental in making our district and schools more accountable, more transparent, more cost-effective, and financially strong. My ultimate goal as board member is to deliver an A-class school district to our community. I will not bring to the board any special interests, political or ideological agendas, or personal conflicts whatsoever. I am a consensus builder. I am Luis Bernal, a parent's voice on the school board.
Hi, my name is Erica Donalds. I'm running for Collier County School Board District 3. I'm a mother of 3 boys. I graduated magna cum laude from Florida State University with a bachelor's in accounting, and I have a master's degree in accounting as well from Florida Atlantic University. I work currently as a controller and partner for an investment firm here in Naples that manages a little over $2 billion in client assets, and I'm also a certified public accountant, a CPA. In my job, I'm responsible for budgeting, financial statement analysis, strategic planning, internal and external audit, cost controls, and contracts. All of these expertise are highly transferable when you consider the school board's $1 billion budget and the hundreds of policies and contracts under their supervision. A year ago, I founded Parents Rock, Parents' Rights of Choice for Kids, which has united and empowered parents of Collier County to take ownership and really be involved in the education decisions that are made here at the district level and also at the state level. And I feel that's extremely important because we all know that parent involvement is the #1 indicator of student success academically. And I think that more parents being involved is going to help our students in the long run. For 2 years, I've also involved myself in statewide organizations which advocate on education legislation in Tallahassee. So my financial and budget experience, my ability to engage parents, and my experience with education policy at the state level will make me an effective member of your school board. Again, my name is Erica Donalds, and I am asking for your vote for Collier County School Board District 3. Thank you.
Hello, my name is J.B. Holmes, candidate for Collier County School Board District 3. I'm an algebra and geometry teacher for Collier County Public Schools in alternative education and for the severely emotionally disturbed. I teach GED math at New Hope Ministries, and I'm the New Hope Ministries American Sign Language instructor. I live in the heart of District 3, Golden Gate City, within walking distance of 4 District 3 schools I've taught at in the past. I served in the United States Air Force, training F-106 fighter pilots for the Air Defense Command. My wife, Dusty, is a former United States Army nurse, and we were both active members of the Golden Gate Veterans of Foreign Wars Post. I serve you on the FEA Government Policies and Legislative Committee, advising on legislation for the benefit of students, parents, and teachers. I serve you as executive board member of the Collier County Education Association, negotiating for students, parents, and teachers with the Collier County School Administration. As a Doctor of Education and Organizational Leadership, I serve you on the Collier County Public Schools Strategic Planning and Finance Committee to bring you over 30 years of continued finance education and business experience in budgeting, contracting, and inventories. Skills, education, and experience no other candidate has. Skills directly transferable to school board responsibilities. I believe in putting education first, where education first means students, parents, and teachers are our first priority. Skills I practice every day in the classroom. We can accomplish our goal of education first by creating a responsible budget without deficits that is focused on the classroom. It is my goal to work towards creating a world-class education environment in Collier County for the benefit of all students. All of our students should have a 21st century education opportunity. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Ryan and a candidate for the Collier District 3 School Board seat. I'd like to thank all of those involved for the opportunity of being with you this evening. I've lived in Southwest Florida for 44 years and worked for the Collier County School District for 30 years, where I was a teacher, counselor, and administrator at the middle school, high school, and district levels. 28 years were spent in Immokalee, 9 years at the middle school, and 19 at the high school. I also spent 6 years in Michigan as a teacher and counselor at 2 different high schools. I was born and raised in Detroit. I have a bachelor's degree in social science and a master's degree in counseling from Michigan State University and a doctorate in educational administration from Florida Atlantic University. In retirement, I was hired as a consultant for a charter school company for 2 years and served as interim high school principal for their Fort Myers site for 3 months. I volunteer with the Middle School Scholar Bowl and debate programs, the High School Scholar Bowl, mock trial, and Know Your County Government programs. I've served as a member and chair of many committees at both the local and state levels, both during my career and in retirement. I am very familiar with Florida school law, financing, and budgeting. For 2 years, I was responsible for the district summer school program. I managed a $3.5 million budget, hired more than 500 employees, arranged for transportation, meals, and curriculum for the students. I supervised 7 principals. All of this education and work experience provides me with a small learning curve for the position of board member. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dr. Tom Andler. I'm running for the school board for District 5. District 5 is comprised of the Everglades City area, along with Chokoloskee and Plantation. It also includes Immokalee and the Golden Gate area. Why I'm running? I'm running because when I was brought up, I was told to stand up for what you believe in. If you sit down and do nothing, then you have to accept the outcome. But if you have something to say it. I presently don't care for the way that the school board is, the direction it's taking both fiscally and educationally. I think there's room for improvement. We are a good school district, but we're not a world-class district yet. I think by bringing in 3 new members, including me, we can bring this closer and closer to a world-class school district. I've got a lot of ideas from other areas that I've seen that can help this district and cross-pollinate it with new ideas. I've been a school district superintendent, so I know what the ins and outs are. I prepared 62 school board meetings with no altercations, and I had 5 good years as superintendent. I've also got a doctorate in education with an emphasis in community education, and I believe strongly in community education. Those are the reasons I'm running. And I just would ask for everybody to listen to my message and to support me August 26th. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Roy Terry, and I'm running for school board in District 5. My wife, Helen, and our 2 children, Roy and Kathy, moved to Naples, Florida in 1978. Both of my children and my granddaughter are all graduates of the Collier County Public School System. My wife, Helen, was a counselor in the system, and I've been working in the system for 36 years. I've been a teacher, a coach, athletic director, assistant principal, and coordinator for the school district of Collier County. I've also served in our community, most recently as the president of the Rotary Club of Immokalee. I'm on the board of directors for Champions for Learning. I'm a trustee at our Cornerstone United Methodist Church. In the last 2 years, I've been on the board of directors for the Florida School Board Association. Why am I running for a second term? I want to maintain stability on the school board. I want to continue my work with the Florida School Board Association, focusing on more local control, less testing, reducing the burden of extra work on teachers. And thirdly, I want to continue reducing the budget and eliminate deficit spending without affecting student programs or activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. And Ms. Greenewalt, you get the honor of having the first question, which comes from me. And I want to know, based on your introduction, how do you think the district should attract and retain high-quality teachers, especially when the district has 200, 250, 300 teachers leaving every year due to retirement or for personal reasons?
Actually, you hired 250 new teachers. How do we attract and keep those new teachers? First of all, you have to pay them well. Secondly, you have to give them a level of comfort, and a 1-year contract really doesn't allow for that. If I was a new teacher coming into the Collier school system, I probably wouldn't settle in Collier County. I would probably settle in Lee County because they allow their teachers 2 or 3 years in order to really get their feet wet and do the job that they're hired to do. So besides pay, I'd like to see them on a 2-3-year contract initially. I would also like to have an evaluation instrument that isn't so geared to the testing. And I'm really not sure how that would come about because we've got all those mandates coming down from Tallahassee.
I guess we'll go down the line. Ms. Lichter, do you have a response?
Actually, for the last 6 months, I've been involved with recruiting teachers and staff at the charter school I've been involved with. And one way that we were able to recruit people, not only locally but from out of state, was to provide a kind of school that teachers dream about teaching in. It's the kind of environment where they're given the freedom and flexibility to actually teach the students. Oftentimes you'll hear people talk about the teachers in this district, especially at board meetings. Administrators will refer to the teachers as facilitators or guides on the side. We don't. We treat the teachers as the sage on the stage. They're the ones with the wisdom and knowledge. So for us, that's my experience of bringing and recruiting people who have moved here, bought homes, and are going to be paying taxes and a part of this community because they're part of a school that they believe in this mission. And I think we need to get back to that. Thanks.
I think one of the keys to teacher retention beyond the pay aspect is providing a multi-year contract. And I think another major point that I think a lot of people miss is being that strong advocate of local control and local government to Tallahassee, of which I've had the experience in fighting in higher education and for students in that area, leading the Florida College System Student Government Association for a year. I bring that to the table. But I think multi-year contracts are going to be one of the biggest things that will pat down a lot of the fears of teachers moving and high turnover rates that we're seeing.
I just would like to add community engagement. We as a community have a historic record, like with Connect Now and other initiatives that make teachers feel part of the community. They that way they have a voice in terms of policies, in terms of their own experiences, but also have the opportunity to meet businesses, leaders in the community, and know that they belong here and they will belong for us as long as this community welcomes them. So community engagement is one key way to attract and retain teachers.
I believe that giving teachers the freedom to teach in their classrooms and the ability to exercise professional discretion in their classrooms, depending on the unique needs of each student in their class, is a prime way to attract and retain teachers. If you give teachers the freedom to teach and not restrict them to a certain schedule that comes from up top that they don't have any say in, or materials that are selected for them that they also don't have say in, I believe that teachers are the professionals and they should be the driving decision makers of those. Also, continue to pay them at a good rate. Even for after a cost of living adjustment, Collier County pays our teachers in the top quartile of the state, and by some, depending on what level, sometimes it's in the top 10 counties in the state. So I believe we do pay our teachers well, and we need to continue to do that.
Okay, how do we attract and retain teachers in Collier County Public Schools? Well, number one, we should extend to them the same courtesy we extended to the superintendent, that if they're effective or highly effective on their evaluations, they should have their contracts automatically renewed. Two, we need a stabilized teacher evaluation system. Currently, as a teacher in the classroom, I don't know what I'm going to be evaluated on for last year.
Oh. Sorry about that. Most of it's been said, but certainly I definitely agree we have to pay all of our staff, not just the teachers, but the non-instructional staff also who assist the teachers. They need to be paid adequately also. But the multi-year contract has to be looked into. I'm not quite sure under the new laws how we can do that, but I certainly would be investigating how we can do it, because I agree with the thought that if we can give the superintendent a multi-year contract for being highly effective, then highly effective teachers should be allowed multi-year contracts. So that, but I also agree the community needs to do more to make sure that everyone feels welcome, and I'm not sure that always does happen. Thank you.
Between my wife and I, we have 70 years in education, and we're both retired now. And we looked at each other the other day, and we realized we were looking up at the poverty level. We went into education for altruistic reasons. We wanted to make a difference. So helping that altruistic reason to hire young teachers, a little money helps a little bit too. Give them a fair living wage. Second of all, how do we keep that altruism from becoming jaded? In recent years, my wife would spend 8 to 16 hours a weekend on schoolwork. And it wasn't necessarily on work that was right up front with the students. A lot of it was bureaucratic paperwork. It was data mining. It was making graphs on progress. It was things that I wish there would be people on the administrative level doing, take some of the burden off the teachers and let some administrative level take care of some of that paperwork. A lot of these first-year teachers are just absolutely disillusioned with the teaching profession. It's not what they thought it was going to be. They thought they'd be teaching these little freckle-faced kids, and it's just unbelievable amount of work, and it's bureaucratic work that should be stripped away so that the teachers have more time to work directly with the students. And I think the teachers should have more flexibility, which we might get into, we might not. The core curriculum doesn't give much flexibility. I think we hire teachers as professionals. They know what they're doing. We have to trust them. And just respect the teachers and give them a fair living wage and take away some of that bureaucracy. Thank you.
I would agree with a lot of the things that have been said. I think we need to look at multiple year contracts. I think a highly effective teacher should be able to get a 3-year contract, and an effective teacher should be able to get a 2-year contract. And as long as they maintain those levels of excellence, then their contract ought to be along those lines. I think we need to pay Everglades and Immokalee teachers a little bit more than we pay other teachers, because a lot of them have to travel, have a lot of travel and mileage they have to pay for. So I think that would be one way to incentivize teachers to stay. I think we need to work on ways to get them involved in the community. If you can get them involved in the community, either through clubs or through their church or whatever, then you have a good chance of maintaining that teacher here in the Naples area. And I think we do need to work on allowing teachers to teach. So much of their job nowadays is doing paperwork, fulfilling mandates from the state government, and we need to lighten that load so that teachers actually have time to teach in their class. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the second question now of Mrs. Lichter. You have been very candid that the district's, quote, utilitarian, unquote, approach, which translated means get students ready for college or career, is not good enough for your children. You want them to have a more classical emphasis on knowledge, virtues, and building character, so you have devoted your efforts for 3 years to starting a public charter school here. If you are elected, how would you enrich the current county school's emphasis on STEM, science, technology, and engineering and math, with the classical virtues and character building?
That's a great question. One thing I will say to start this off is I think we've lost sight of the true purpose of education and why we send our kids to school in the first place. This college and career readiness that we keep hearing, and we hear a lot of buzzwords in public education, it seems like the more we talk about college and career readiness, the further we get from it. When we hear STEM programs, the important part of STEM program is not just to focus on the technology, but it's important to have a strong science and math curriculum. What we're seeing in the elementary schools is that science is not taught every day. Let me give an example with math. Here's something I would like to bring to the district. And being that I've talked to hundreds of parents, you have kids on both sides, some who are excelling at math but have no room to grow. Let's use a 4th grade child for an example. If he is excelling in math, he is in 4th grade math, and there's no place for this child to go. If we would implement a math block in the elementary years, it would be based on placement so that child can go to the proper level. If a child has been pushed through, which often happens, and they don't receive those foundations, this gives them the opportunity to get the remediation that they so need, because once they go on to middle school and high school, they cannot do higher level math without those foundations. So those are some of the things I would like to bring in, and really we're missing the boat on real content and background knowledge that will improve our schools. And we focus too much on the testing and passing tests. We need to get back to that first question that we need to ask ourselves. What is the real purpose of education? So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, and please, all of you, try to keep your responses crisp. We took 10 minutes on that first one, and we're going to not get through everybody if we don't speed it up a little bit.
In that respect, as Dudley would say, I'll be short on this. I think I agree that there's a problem in finding out what college and career readiness means, but I think the easiest point of it is that you have to be able to provide that teacher with the resources that they need to be able to provide a good curriculum, and I think that involves school board members being advocates to Tallahassee and Washington, D.C., where a lot of curriculum unfortunately comes from, and help bringing that back into more local control. As far as STEM, I'm an advocate for STEAM because I think when you take the arts out of everything, you take a lot of that critical thinking element that really can't be taught but is kind of entwined in a lot of those subjects. So I would be an advocate for that.
Regarding the utilitarian approach and parents' choice, when we take into account that 63% of our students qualify for free lunch, 47% are of Hispanic, of Latino descent, and 15 are English learners, as I am. That limits our choices. And if we know that the deficit of STEM-related or technology-related works in Florida is going to increase in the next 10, 15 years at levels that we will not be provided to fulfill the workforce, I think is the real choice is being aware of what is the socioeconomic surroundings of our children. I don't believe that STEM education has to do or excludes art or culture. And STEM technology, it can be the means to learn culture and art. So it's looking for the good way to balance the reality of our socioeconomical surroundings and also the good goals of education.
I don't think that the classical and the STEM are mutually exclusive. Personally, I believe in a classical liberal arts education, especially in the lower grades, and that's what's working well for my children. And my children are unique from the 44,000 other children in Collier County. What I believe is that we need to recognize that. I do think that in the elementary schools and all of the traditional elementary schools as well as the charter schools that students benefit from cultural literacy, a basis of phonics and math facts, and memorizing information that's going to help them to problem solve later on, and that they need that. However, when you get to those older grades and you have a STEM focus, I just would caution our district to have a STEM focus for every single student. We can't do that. We have to have a STEM focus for the student who fit into that well, and that is going to work for them. And we have to have other avenues for other students who are not going to have that focus on science, technology, engineering, and math. We might want that, but the student and their talents and their unique abilities is what drives where they're going to excel. And we need to accept that and provide those different choices and avenues.
I would enrich STEM by, right now we have an emphasis on college prep for all of our students. Not all of our students are going to go on to college. A lot of them are going to go right out to careers, or they would prefer to go into careers. We need to prepare those students with practical courses, such as are taught at Lawrence Walker Technical Institute, Lorenzo Walker Technical Institute. We need to expand that program for all of our students, for the students who are not going to go on to college immediately. And the STEM program would be practical for both of those programs.
First, I would also agree with the idea that the STEM program needs to be expanded and include the arts. Much research has shown that the arts actually enhance math skills. The other thing is, I have long been an advocate for career education. It's the one thing that gives lots of kids who see no meaning in school something to look for and say, okay, that's why I'm here. I'm going towards, and they have a goal, something to look forward to. Most of the time, if you stick with and I'm not quite sure what classical education means because one person's definition is different from another's. Many students, particularly the ones I have worked with most of my career, need to have a goal and a focus, and career education tends to give them that.
I believe that the STEM program and a classical or basic education are hand in hand. I was a science teacher. I believe in technology and math and science, but I don't believe you can do higher math skills and higher science skills until you get the basics down. I mean, just look at our space program. First we had to launch a monkey. First we had to just launch a missile up there to make sure it would get up there and get back. Then we had to put a monkey in there. It was a slow progression. We did a monkey, and then Alan Shepard went up and down, and he survived. So we went one step farther, and John Glenn went 3 times around. Then we started the Apollo program. It was step by step by step, and I think that we're forgetting that you can't do higher skills, higher achievements until you get the basics down. You can't build a building on a weak foundation. It'll collapse, or you'll never get that building built. I can only speak through experience. My wife, being a first grade teacher last year, was told, do not use flashcards, do not use math drills. The kids are supposed to discover adding. I did all right with flashcards and rote memory and drills. Most of the people in here did good on that. It's a real trick to discover how to add 2 plus 2. But it's nothing when you know 2 plus 2 is 4, 5 plus 6 is 11. You can snap these off because we've all had that rote memory, and we're forgetting that basic level. Once we get the basic level on, then we can shoot up higher and do great things.
College and career readiness, I think, is a very important part of the educational program. Most of our jobs in the future are not going to need a college education. Most of our jobs are going to require workers that go out when they leave high school and go to technical schools or other schools. And so we need to prepare those students for that response. I know that at the Champions for Learning, we've got an excellent program going at Golden Gate High School where a counselor is working there with students to help them plan their future and to move on after high school. And I think we need to do more of that throughout the district so that when children leave our high schools, they're ready to move either into the workforce or go on to college, whichever is best for them. But everybody doesn't have to go to college. That's not necessary. I also agree with the STEAM program. I think the arts are very important. I think that we have a real problem with losing creativity in the students that we're producing, and I think that the fine arts give them that creativity that they need. Thank you.
Ms. Greenwald, do you have a response?
Can I jump in with STEM? I'm a big advocate for STEM because having worked at the lab, I worked with 6th grade girls introducing them to engineering. It's a good thing to tell young women that it's okay to be good in science and in math, and I'd like to see it start early. I think on my way here I passed Arthrex. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of job creation there. And I want to make sure that the kids in Collier County have what it takes to get a job there, or Alginol, or any of the other companies that will be heading down here. But also, let me say this for the STEAM program. Okay, so we read El Señor de la Mancha, right? And then we build wind turbines in the physics classes.
That's very good.
This is a question of Jacob, and before I ask the question, let me just tell you what an honor it was while I was the interim president at Edison, now Florida Southwestern, for you to be the student leader that you were during the time period I was there. I know that other members of the former and current members of the Board of Trustees of Florida Southwestern know of your leadership, and I just want to thank you for that. And then I'm going to ask you that short question. Tell me, what is it that students need?
I think the biggest thing that students need is someone who will listen to them. When I was a student at Barron Collier High School, almost every board meeting I would get done with JROTC color guard or drill team practice, and I would walk to the board meetings and would email board members daily, as I'm sure Mr. Terry and Ms. Curtolo can attest to. And I think that's the biggest thing that always strikes students off, is that they have concerns or they have ideas and they go to leadership and that leadership doesn't listen. And I think that's a problem that we've kind of experienced for a while now, because I don't think any of them or some board members understand what it is to be a student in today's school, and it has changed, and I'm a product of that. And so no matter what student, whether it's a kindergartner or a senior, that comes up and has ideas and concerns, I think board members need to be listeners first, as their first job as they sit behind that dais, is they need to be able to listen to students, parents, community members, teachers, and that's one thing that I think I can bring to the board, going through that as a student and not being listened to by some board members and being listened to by others. It needs to be all five.
It is said that it takes a community to raise a child. I believe that children need the permanent collaboration between their families and the teachers, the schools, not only the board, not only the administrative building. At school level, on day-to-day basis, they need to make sure that their parents, their families understand the schools, understand the system, they together can plan their future, and they are part, all the parties are part of the children future. They need to understand their environment and what the life is bringing to them in terms of culture, in terms of the economy, in terms of values, in terms of what's going on in their community. Understand the future of their community is important for the families overall, not just children. So what I believe is that at this point, children need an active community and parent engagement at level school.
What students need are involved parents. Over the past year, I've been able to get hundreds of parents involved in the education decisions in our county, and I think it's made a huge difference, and we continue to grow that. What we need on the other side of that, however, is a district that welcomes parent input, that partners with parents, and makes them a part of the educational process. It takes a little more work because parents have opinions, and those opinions have to be addressed, and perhaps there's input coming from the parents that the district would rather not have because they might have to make changes. However, an involved parent is the #1 indicator of that student's academic success. And that's why I want to be on the school board, because I have a record of getting parents involved. I have a ton of ideas and ways that we can continue to embrace parent involvement, and that is what is going to be the difference for our students in our county.
Okay, what do students need? We need more personal contact between students and teachers. One-on-one student-teacher relationships. We can do that by increasing school counselors. Counselors are considered teachers, and we need direct teacher-parent communication and contact on as frequent a basis as possible, instituted by the teachers in the classroom.
I spent most of my career with students who did not have parental advocates, unfortunately, and most of the people who were there for them were the people at school. Many of them came to school every day for the 2 meals that they got there, and they came for either to be cool or to be kept out of the rain from whatever what was going on outside. Pretty different environment that those kids come from. And they need the kind of people in their schools who are going to be there to listen to them, as was stated, but to be their advocates and to provide them with the support they need to help them grow and become the individuals that they are capable of becoming.
I'm going to paraphrase now the best I can. Michelle has enough road covering to cover 1/15,000th of a square mile. She wants to make a runway that is 1/6 mile long. How wide can that runway be? Well, when I got to that question, I'm a math and science teacher. I took that out of the new Florida Standards Assessment practice test. When I got to question 4, I quit. I wasn't going to go on to question 5. How do you think a kid taking a test is going to feel when they come to a question like that? I was going to call JB, but I didn't want to call him at 10:30 at night. JB, help me out, because he's a math teacher. I couldn't. It's astounding that we're asking our kids to do this. Maslow, Einstein, Hertzberg, they all dealt with motivation. A child or any person, a worker, and we can all relate to this, has to be comfortable in order to achieve that self-actualization, to become good at what they do. If that comfort level isn't there, if they're made uncomfortable, you just fall apart. And I can see how kids can fall apart through testing situations like that and teaching situations that stress that assessment question. Because that's supposed to come from a standard. If it's an assessment question, it's supposed to come from one of our Sunshine State standards. And who writes these? I don't know, but they're bigger wizards than me. So we got to make these kids comfortable in school.
The question is, what do students need? I think one of the biggest things they need is a mentor. And it doesn't matter who that mentor is. It can be a boss they work with after school. It can be somebody that comes to the school and visits with them during the day. It can be a teacher. It can be another person that works at the school. But they just need somebody that they can go to that they feel comfortable with and that they feel confidence in, that they can talk to about the things that they need to talk about. I think they also need limits. Students, even though they will tell you they'd rather be free and do what they want to do, most students that I've found have limits stressed so that they know what their limits are and what they're capable and allowed to do. So I think limits are very important. I think also it would be very, very good if all students were involved in some type of activity at the school. If they were in the band, in athletics, and JROTC, and drama. There are many, many different activities, and I've always said we would cut down a lot on a lot of our problems if we had students that were involved or required to be in some type of activity during the school day. So those are the things that I think students need to be successful at school.
I'm going to make it short and sweet. I think good teachers are very important, and we can all think about a teacher that was inspirational, that may have provided us with limits, that was a mentor to us. So I would say students need good teachers.
What do students need? I would say that we need to treat them as human beings. They have hearts, minds, and souls. They're not test-taking machines. They're not robots. And I think if we could give these children a strong, well-rounded education, instead of pigeonholing them into one career path, I think we're limiting a child's potential. They can go and do great things if we give them that well-rounded foundation. That's what students need.
Okay.
It's my turn. Mr. Bernal, you mentioned in your introduction that Collier County has 47% Hispanic students, and we are a majority-minority district. How would you, as a school board member, seek to help the district close the achievement gap for those students?
That's a great question. It's not only one achievement gap. There are many. I'm not sure that anybody has the magic solution, but there are definitely many avenues to do that. One is to help the parents understand the system. I came to this country and I didn't understand anything about education. Now I have learned a little bit through my master's degree with educational policy, but most importantly, having my son, who is bilingual and bicultural in public schools here. So for the system to understand the parents, not just because it's another language, it's because it's another reality, but also for parents to understand the system, all the bureaucratic requirements, all the grading system, which is different than in other countries, how equivalent might be this system to other countries. And for the district overall to decide if having those for minority students is a burden, is a liability, or is an opportunity. My take is the second. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity culturally, it's an opportunity socially, and it's an opportunity in economic terms. So it is that experience, and also my personal experience working in helping organizations in Latin American countries, in public policy, in education, in workforce, in small businesses, that what I want to bring to the school system to understand what that reality is. So far, I have all sorts of experiences. Sometimes at the school level, they believe that the cultural thing is a fancy word, just to get rid of taking the realities of dealing with other cultures. We here in Collier County are like 80 languages are spoken all over the world. And this is, as you said, a minority district, and we need to face that. We are in a very privileged position, geographically speaking, and we can take advantage of that.
I have a problem with the term of closing the achievement gap, because if you have a gap in achievement, you have these students here and these students here, you're automatically saying that you want these students to excel more than these students do over a period of time. That is closing the achievement gap, means that the ones who are lower are going to do better year over year than the ones who are at the top. That's the only way to close the gap. If we're looking at these individual students and what they need to be successful, it is not about a gap. It is about John Jacobs, or whatever his name is, doing a teacher, matching up that teacher with that student and giving him the quality experience and education that's going to help him succeed in whatever he is going to do in life. And it can't be measured by a test score, because that's also what closing the achievement gap is making sure that these students do better on tests. And student success is not measured that way, especially not in our lower socioeconomic communities, whether it's minority or not. It's really the socioeconomic status that's driving this. Those test scores cannot be our focus. And if that continues to be our focus, then we are not going to set these students up for success and close the achievement gap when it comes to long-term, lifelong success of our students.
How do we close the achievement gap? We need teachers and parents working together for the benefit of each individual student. Students are individuals. No two are the same. No two should be treated the same. Each student is an individual. Each teacher should be working with each student's parents to close that achievement gap for that individual student.
I believe the question was, what do the students, the minority students, need? Having spent, again, most of my career in an environment where the majority population was about 10%, so the minority population definitely dominated. And I believe we were very successful. Outside testing, people might have said, you're not doing the job. But I felt that we very much did the job. It's difficult, though, when you get students who, at the age of 15, come to you and they've never been to school before, and you have to start by teaching them what a pencil is and how to use the restroom and how to eat in the cafeteria, which we had to do that frequently. What students like that need is a family-loving, warm environment, which we provided. And at least while I was there, that was very much the environment that existed. I think that's what needs to be provided, and part of what provides that is not changing administrators and teachers and making it a round robin. You need to have stability, and you have to make sure the same teachers are there year after year after year, and the same administrators are there year after year after year, so that those kids and those families get to know you and they get to feel secure with you. You don't have to be a minority person, which some people think. You just have to be somebody who goes out there and cares, and that doesn't mean you have to be a bleeding heart. Sometimes you have to care enough to both say no, and you have to also care enough to challenge those kids to do the best that they can.
If I moved to China or Russia today, I wouldn't even have enough sense or knowledge to find the soup kitchens. I'd be lost. Noah Webster wrote the first American dictionary so that all of America would talk the same language and think the same thoughts, at least as Americans. He wanted the pronunciation the same, depending which part of the country you're from, but he thought the strongest America would come out of a common language. So we have two types of minority education that has to be done in our schools. Those children that are American-born children and those that are coming in as immigrants. And we have a big immigrant population here. And I think the first thing that would help these kids is get them some really proficient English background so that we could get them into the mainstream classes and teaching these classes that they've got to learn to survive in. So that would be one area we've got to get them to be speaking English and as soon as possible. I wish, and I don't say forget their home language. I think it's important. I wish I was bilingual. I wish my grandparents would have taught me Polish, Ukrainian, Lithuanian, Russian. I wish they would have. It would have been interesting. But you can't ever let your culture go. But you can. We've got to get them mainstreamed with English and the American-born immigrants. I think, or I'm sorry, American-born minorities. We have to find a way so that they're not disenfranchised from education and get them into the educational system.
First of all, you don't close the education gap by drawing the top level down to the other level. The secret is to move all levels up. For example, in Algebra 1 end-of-course testing, students that scored 3 or better. In 2011 in the district, there were 53% of the students that passed the end-of-course test in algebra. This past year, 73% passed, a rise of about 20%. In black students in 2011, we had 39% that passed. This past year, we had 65.3%, or 26%. Now that's definitely an increase, not only in the black students that passed and the district that passed, but it's also a small district increase of about 4.6% in closing the gap. So I think we need to look and make sure that we're getting all of our students moving up, not just concentrating solely on one level, so that we bring them all along the same pace. I would be for a training program for parents. I think especially in the Immokalee area, we need to set up a training program for parents so that I know they work long hours during the day. It's tough to get them there, but they need to be able to train their students at home to do their studies and do the things that they need to do at home. And we need to provide that training program for them. And we need teacher stability. Teacher stability is very, very important. And if you have teachers leaving every year, students don't know who's going to be there next year. It takes them a month or 2 months just to learn the classroom organization and everything else. So we need teacher stability. So we need to do whatever we can to increase the stability for our teachers.
I think I'm going to go a little different route. I would like to see more pre-K, more students involved, more teachers involved, because it's been shown that the minority students, when they enter kindergarten, are already academically behind. So we need to get involved with these students very, very early. So there must be an increase in that pre-K program. Also, I agree, I think the district does a good job right now with the ELL classes that they provide for the adults. That probably needs to be expanded, especially in the Immokalee area.
I would want to look at some of the other models in schools that have these same issues and what are they doing successfully. One story we could look at is the Marva Collins story. In inner city Chicago, she started West Side Preparatory. These were inner city Chicago kids who were kicked out of the public schools, and she gave them a kind of education where she was teaching them Shakespeare and having them read Plato's Republic. She raised the bar for them and gave them things that the public schools would say, they don't need this kind of education. This is beyond them. And she said, no, I'm going to give them a strong, rigorous curriculum, and I'm going to make them work. And these kids all went on to graduate high school, went on to college, but it's not even about going to college and getting a great job. These people then became responsible members of society, contributing and being great role models in this fine country we live in. And I think that's a great story and a great model to look on to. Thanks.
I agree with Ms. Greenewalt that somehow increasing our pre-K programs and getting more involved, that is going to be a very key point. The earlier you get to any student, it's just going to be a better experience for them as an overall. I think the 3 keys is less testing, better parent involvement, and retaining good teachers and principals at those same schools. I've gone through many times when principals or teachers have switched schools that I was attending, and I saw that it affects all students, not just ones with labels, but I think those are the 3 key points, and expanding a pre-K program.
Okay, I think we're ready for the next question. Let me start, Erica, with you. I want to follow on with what was just said about pre-K. Until now, until the 2 of the last 3 speakers, we had not heard anything about early learning. And it's been proven by many studies over decades that once children fall behind, catching them up is very difficult. And so we can all talk about what kind of curriculum we ought to have at the high school level or even at the elementary level. But if kids get to kindergarten not ready, they're not going to be successful. And if they fail, it's not just going to drag them down, it's going to slow down the classroom they're in, and it's going to put them, the unready, at terrible risk of failure in the rest of their lives. So we know that the school district already has VPK, voluntary pre-K, state funded by the state, in several of the elementary schools. But they haven't so far expanded throughout the district. Just in several schools. But they are providing some materials and some curricula for the other VPK programs that are not in the schools, for those pre-K programs that want that help. It is available for them from the district. My question to you is, doesn't the school district have a vested interest in doing whatever it can, lots more than already being done, to make sure that those 4-year-olds are getting VPK so that they're ready for school when they get to kindergarten?
Well, this is a perfect question for me because I actually have a 3-year-old and I've been looking at VPK programs for him as coming up. So I'm very familiar with VPK. My other 2 sons also went through it. And we actually have a wonderful model for the rest of the country to look at when it comes to pre-K programs in the state of Florida. We have this voluntary pre-K. The state of Florida pays for any child, no matter what their income is or their family status, to go to pre-K for 3 hours a day for the entire school year that they're 4 years old. The best thing about this, however, it's funded by the state, is that the private providers compete for those state dollars, and so they have an incentive to provide a quality program that is also then funded by the state. And that is why you see, if you go to the Florida website, you can download a spreadsheet that has all of the programs available in the area, and it ranks them from kindergarten readiness from 100 down to 0, and anyone can go on there and say, hey, it's free for those 3 hours for me as a parent. Where am I going to select my child to go? I'm going to take those top 90 to 100, whichever one's closest to me, and that's where I'm going to apply. Now, unfortunately, those programs that are run by the school district are some of the lower performing programs, and you don't see the participation. And there could be a number of factors that contribute to that, and I'm sure there are. However, the expansion of the VPK, I think we should start with those private providers that compete and do an excellent job of working on those students. And these students come into school and they are way ahead. I mean, my students and my own experience, they were phenomenally ready for kindergarten when they went there after going through that VPK program that's dictated by the state. So there's a wonderful program already in place. if we need to expand that, certainly the school district can help to get the word out on that. But I think that the private providers are doing a phenomenal job, and as long as that's available and able to be expanded in that way, I would promote that, as opposed to us looking to do more of it in the schools, seeing that what we've done so far hasn't worked very well.
Okay. The private voluntary pre-K programs we should have a multitude of those so that they are competitive. So that competition creates better and better programs. And what we need to do is advertise those programs in as many languages as possible so that all the parents out there, the ones we want to close the achievement gap on, know that those programs are available.
I have long been an advocate for the federal Head Start program. I know that may be a dirty word to some people in the audience, but it has made a big difference in Immokalee over the years. The thing about Head Start, and I don't know where they get the negative reviews, who they did their studies on, but I don't remember them ever coming out and testing Immokalee students. The big thing that Head Start does is two things. In addition to the educating of the children, is they also do health care screenings, which is a big thing. When you can test children for hearing and vision loss at a young age and get them glasses or hearing aids or whatever their needs are, or finding whether it's childhood diabetes or any of the other things that get looked at, and you can find them at a young age, it can make a tremendous difference. So not only is it, and I say that as somebody who worked at the middle and high school levels and as a counselor at the middle school, and I would get children who, I remember one young man I discovered as a sixth grader, we finally got him care in the 8th grade, and once he got a pair of glasses, he all of a sudden started devouring books, but he couldn't read the books before he got the glasses. So a non-reader became a vociferous reader with a pair of glasses. And those are the kinds of things that programs like Head Start can do. And I have long been an advocate. And any other programs which are similar that can provide a full kind of activities, I think are very necessary for all kids.
Pre-K is the new K. Kids are already learning to read in kindergarten, so they have to have the pre-K to prep them for kindergarten. When I was a kid, we didn't start Jip Run Jip until 1st grade. But now they're learning way past Jip Run Jip in kindergarten. So pre-K is so vitally important to get the kids off on the right step. When I taught at Everglades City School for a few years there, I was just absolutely amazed when the pre-Kers were waiting to go to their lunch line, they'd start screaming off the phonics. They were doing Spalding phonics. And in pre-K, these kids were learning phonics. And you can't learn to read until you know phonics. And in pre-K, they were getting this firm foundation in phonics. And I thought that was utterly great. And one thing, if I got on the board, I'd want to investigate why the Spalding phonics programs dropped. I do know that there's still phonics in school, but it's not the same program as what they had. And that was a successful program. It was so interesting to see these little kids just rapping off phonics, what the ooh sound is and this and that, and they do it with their arms and legs, and they were really into it. They were really excited about it, and it was amazing. It tickled my heart, and that's not easy to do. So I get these kids in pre-K ready for K, because come K, they're going to be doing intensive learning.
We do have phonics in our reading program in schools. Now it's embedded in the program. So rather than having two separate programs we're paying for, we have one program that has phonics embedded in the program itself. But as far as VPK and school programs, when I was at Lely High School, we had a pre-K program in our school. Jan Miller was the teacher. Moved to Palmetto Ridge, we had a pre-K program in our school. Jan Miller moved with me up to Palmetto Ridge. We opened a pre-K program there. It was an all-day program. And down at Lely, we attracted a lot of kids from the Naples Manor, which is an area that really needs that type of work. And it was all day. So if their parents went to work, they could get back in time to get them in the afternoon, and the students ran the program. It was a student program. Our students at Lely and Palmetto Ridge ran the program. They loved it. The kids loved it, and it was a tremendously successful program, and it was very cheap because of low overhead on the whole total program. VPK is another thing, and it's another good program, and people ought to take advantage of it. But we definitely need pre-K in order to get the kids off on the right foot.
It definitely needs to be in your lower performing schools, and just like your realtors say, location, location, location. I would bet that North Naples, the pre-K schools, have a different academic level coming in versus the pre-K out in the Immokalee area. It definitely needs to be expanded in that area and at low-performing schools.
I would agree. Is this on? I would agree with Mrs. Donalds in regards to the VPK program and how great they are. I've had many conversations with parents who are telling great stories about their VPK experience, but the problem is when their kids then go on to kindergarten, they feel that the academics are almost the same. So I guess that's where my concern is. We need to remember that 5- and 6-year-olds in kindergarten, their brains are sponges. I mean, they are so excited to learn and absorb. You can really catch these kids up who may not have had the VPK experience, but we have to provide them with an engaging, rigorous curriculum to bring them all up to speed. Thank you.
Just because I touched on this before, I'll say again that the earlier you start that education process, and I agree with Mrs. Lichter that when kids are younger, they absorb that knowledge and that information earlier, and I'm definitely for expanding what we already have in our VPK programs and providing more opportunities to other parts of the county that don't have it currently.
I am not an expert in the matter, but I can speak by experience to say that there is all kind of qualities in VPK programs, and I had the experience with the most expensive or ignored, or I expect it to be better, and I have to, though coming to Naples as a new person in Naples, I have to bring my son to different places because none of them were most or more than a daycare. So my concern is that there is a proper integration between VPK and kinder. The elementary school in general is something that I am not sure is happening. You say that is wonderful, hopefully, but are they prepared for what they are expecting in elementary school? I'm not so sure. And that's a big concern because somebody said that 4, they can be multilingual, they can be, my son didn't know that he was bilingual. And yeah, one day he came back home and said, Daddy, what is being bilingual? And I said, well, you speak 2 languages. He was 4, and that was an opportunity lost in VPK program. So again, I'm not an expert, but I just want to make sure that there is a proper integration between VPK programs and elementary school.
Dr. Holmes, this question is for you, and what I'd like for you to tell me is I know you and 4 of the other candidates have signed a pledge to do certain things during the first 3 meetings that after you're elected in 7 major reform areas. I'd like for you to explain to the audience what that pledge consists of, what motivated you to sign it, and then unlike the other candidates who signed it, to answer similarly why they did, and those who didn't, to tell me why they didn't.
Well, 4 out of those 7 items, or 5 out of those 7 items, we're already doing. The school board is already doing.
Could you please explain what those items are for the benefit of the audience? What are those pledges?
I do not have the contract right in front of me, Mr.
Well, let me refresh your all's memories about that then, real quickly. First, authorize and develop an implementation of an external audit and review process for all textbooks to eliminate the use of all textbooks and materials that are factually inaccurate or politically indoctrinate our students, etc. The second one is to authorize the district to lobby at the state level against Common Core, state standards and assessments, and data mining of our students. The third is to require board meetings to commence on or after 5:30 p.m. in order to give all parents and working taxpayers the opportunity to attend. Fourth is to eliminate the bring your own device in our K through 5 programs. Fifth, return math flashcards, which I think as Dr. Andler had talked about. Maybe it was you, Dr. Holmes, and memorization and multiplication. Sixth, to return the phonics method of teaching reading and writing of English to our K through 2 program. And then seventh of the seven is to direct the board attorney to do several things: declare the superintendent's contract extension and condition any extension on certain other things. So if you would just, without, I don't want to take any more time, but explain to me what motivated you to sign that and why those seven?
Well, as I said, several of those we're already doing. The board is already doing phonics and math cards. We use those in school now. The inspiration for signing that seemed to be a good outline for which all of school board candidates and all school board members should adhere to for general operation on the school board.
When I talked with the gentleman on the phone about the items, I went through some of them and actually got him to eliminate one that was not needed because the board was definitely already doing it. He wanted a yearly audit, and we already have a yearly audit. I agreed with certain aspects of some questions, but I didn't agree with what was implied with most of them. And also, philosophically, I am currently not beholden to any other group, and I was not going to become beholden to his group.
And I'm beholden. It was easy for me to sign the contract because they're the basic tenets. Most of them are close to my ideology and my basic tenets of this campaign. Bring back strong phonics. We had a strong phonics program. We still have phonics, I will grant you that. However, it's a weaker phonics. It's a watered down phonics. It's not the phonics that they were getting. And all those 7 issues are just, to me, common sense things that we should be addressing as board members. We have to address this bring your own device. It's this technological age that we have to look at how technology is being used. Are we going to allow, I mean, we're all embracing technology, but we can't have it abused also in the classrooms. We got to make sure that little Johnny in the back corner, when the teacher's up in this corner, isn't on Facebook talking with his girlfriend that's sick that day. So until I can be guaranteed that no one's going to be abusing bring your own device, I don't think we should have bring your own device. But most of his 7 items were easy for me to go along with, and I signed the contract without any qualms or whims, and I can justify them all. If anybody wants to speak to me over email or telephone, call me on any one, and I can go into more detail why I support that.
I did not sign the contract. I just felt that as a sitting board member, that I didn't want to leave the impression with anybody that I was saying things that were representative of my fellow colleagues on the board. I also felt that whenever I have an issue come up, and these are going to be issues that are going to be brought before the board, that I should not sign a paper, that I want to get out and talk to people and find out what people think about different issues, not just what I may think at that moment. I also think that a number of the items on there are unnecessary items. For example, the textbook committee, we already have a textbook committee. We might want to make sure we include parents on there more, but it is, there are parents involved. The board meeting time, I mean, that was put on there at our first organizational meeting in November when the new board is elected. We sit down and set the board calendar, and we also set the time for the meetings. The school board does that. The people that are here, we don't need to bring that up at a school board meeting in the first 3 meetings of the month. And then phonics, we have phonics embedded in our program. Flashcards, as JB said, we've got flashcards that we use now in the math program. So I did not sign that because I think that it is not proper for somebody to put undue pressure on a board member or somebody who's running for the board to make them sign something out of the threat of possibly some type of action by a group that's going to vote against them in the fall. So that's why I didn't vote for it.
I didn't sign it either because I really didn't want to be beholden to anyone. And since the very first forum, I have come out in favor of Common Core and the Florida standards. I don't like the testing that's involved. However, I'm glad to see the standards in place because now the teacher is once again in control of the classroom, and the teacher knows quite well what needs to be taught in order for the student to meet and exceed those standards. So I didn't like it from the very beginning, so I didn't sign.
Excuse me. I did sign this document. I believe that after many conversations over the last several months with the constituents, these are some of the big issues that come up in conversations at forums, at other organizational meetings such as Parents Rock. Over the last year, a lot of these parents were talking about these concerns, and these are their children. And I think these are important issues. So if we're elected to the school board, we need to be held accountable. We're representing the constituents in Collier County. So if these are the big issues that they want, then I think we need to listen to the constituents. And I support these. I believe in these 7 items, so that's why I signed it. Thank you.
As Dr. Holmes and Mr. Terry both mentioned, a number of these have already been going on or have started to, and as I've been campaigning and talking with people who are living in the community, teachers, parents, and students who are directly affected by education, these are the issues that they care most about. And as I said in my opening, every single issue, I will ask how this affects the students. And if there's an issue that comes across that negatively affects a student, or an issue a ways down a road that develops into something that it is not, then I will vote for what is best for students in Collier County, because that's what I'm in this for.
I didn't sign that contract because I found that exactly what this group is, or this person is is criticizing of the board. Signing contracts for the future is exactly what he was asking us to do, to sign a contract for the future. The second thing is representation. The real contract with Collier County is called Election Day. If I am elected, that's my real contract. And it's with my voters, it's not with the county. I didn't like the fact that the contract used the Collier County logo. So what gives that representation for them to do that? The other thing is that they wanted to portray us as candidates united. That's not good. That's the way we are in a race. And the other thing is that it prefigures sunshine law violation, I would say, if we are in agreement before getting into the board. And the final reason is that he was doing exactly what he criticized the board, is taking decisions the day before. So he was pushing me all the time, even in Spanish, hey, you have to sign this, you have to sign this. No, I don't. So I didn't.
I'm not really sure what group they're referring to, except that this gentleman represented himself as a parent of 4 children at every level of school in Collier County, and that he was not representing a group when he presented this contract. One item, and I did sign the contract, by the way, and I'll explain. One item that Dr. Ryan mentioned, the audit that was in there, I actually asked him to add the word forensic in the audit because that's something we do not do. However, that was taken out, but I would have signed that as well because I would like us to see a forensic audit in our district. We have not done in any past that we can recall, at least. I don't think anyone can disagree about removing textbooks that are factually inaccurate. I have a binder full of ditto sheets that I've received from parents of leaning information, whether it be one way or another, articles, informational articles that none of us would want in our schools. And so I do not want to see those in the schools. I think that there's no room for political information on either side, that we should present facts to the students, allow them to make their own decisions. That was one of the points. Common Core, I've been a strong advocate against Common Core for the past 2 years, working at the state level. I believe it takes away local control, it increases testing, and it's basically driven by buying more materials that change math. Okay, math doesn't change, but we're changing math so that we have to buy more materials, new software, and have these students take more intricate tests that cost more money. I certainly agree with moving the board meetings back to 5:30. I have also been outspoken about the BYOD program in elementary schools. I've heard from hundreds of parents and teachers about the distraction that it provides, the inequality, and it does not have a place in our elementary schools. This allows students to bring devices from home. That means they're all different devices, and our teachers, who we've talked about, have no time as it is, have to manage these devices and be IT people. Math flashcards and phonics, I understand the gentleman saying that we have it already, but having a set of flashcards sitting on the shelf in your classroom does not mean we have a flashcard program, we utilize them. Having a phonics integrated program, I've talked to too many kindergarten and first grade teachers that say we don't do phonics anymore. So they're following the district's program, whether it's in the book or not. It's not in the pacing plan that they're following, and that's prescribed. And I did have an attorney look at the superintendent contract language that the gentleman had provided in his position as an attorney, had someone else look at it. I researched it myself. I believe he does have a valid point in that. And because I've heard from many constituents who feel that the superintendent contract was extended prematurely without proper public input 2 years in advance of its expiration, nothing to do with the performance of the superintendent, let's be clear. It's about the process and having proper accountability and governance on our school board, and that is why I signed the contract. Those are all of the points that I agree with.
Dr. Ryan, you were, in your employment with Collier County Public Schools, you did serve as the summer school coordinator for a time. And I'm just curious to know, because you sort of saw, helping some students keep achieving through, or, help them achieve through the summer so that they could move on. What would your position be about Collier County perhaps starting a year-round school program and possibly a pilot, or, or giving student or parents and teachers the opportunity to create those schools in the district?
Well, I personally have been an advocate for, if you really want to compete with the other countries, as we say we do, research says the one thing, there are a number of things that you can do, but one of the major things you can do, and this would be across the country, is to lengthen the school day and lengthen the school year. So yes, I would be in favor of all of those things. Some people have questioned about lengthening the school day, but that doesn't mean filling it up with the same stuff. It means providing more time for a variety of activities and other things going on in the school day. But our biggest problem with that is, unfortunately, the state legislature providing us with enough money to do that. Back when I headed up summer school, the 2 years I did that, we used to get funded by FTE, which is full-time equivalency, for the students who attended summer school. And we had a massive summer school program. We had over 6,000 students attending summer school, both for remediation and advancement. The legislature, with all of its wisdom, took that money away and created block grants. And of course, anytime you create a block grant and you give discretion for how it's used, all of a sudden summer school money went away and it wasn't available for the kind of summer school we used to provide. So I'm not talking to anybody in the room at all, but but the gentleman's face is getting a little red over there. But with that change did make a difference in summer school. But again, I would be all for year-round school. We have the experimental program with the one elementary school. I think it's been successful. I don't know that for sure. But if it hasn't, there could be other factors than just the fact that it's lengthening the school year. But anyway, in general, yes, and I think there are various ways it could be scheduled, but the other unfortunate piece to that is it does take money, and that money has to come from the state legislature, unfortunately.
Okay, we all know that kids do slide back over the summer. They just don't come back in August and have the same skills they had back in June when they got out. So that being said, there's so many different types of all year round school. There's some of those that go 9 weeks, then 3 weeks off, 9 weeks, there's all sorts of models. And for us as a district to even consider it, we'd have to, I think the best thing to do is go out through the country and see these different models and see how they're working. And just find out, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here in Collier if it's being done somewhere else. And I've always been a firm believer that more ed doesn't mean better ed. I think we have to, it's amazing how long a kid sits in a class, and can we do that with less time? Can we be more efficient with better programs and not have to spend as much time in the classroom? It's amazing how much time you spend in your classroom between pre-K and graduation. It seems to me that we could do things a little bit more efficiently and get the same amount of work done in even actually less amount of time, if we can find a model or program to get that done. So I think we have to be more efficient in what we do, and look at other models for year-round schools. I know, just one real quick thing, come June, the kids and the teachers are ready for a break. I mean, they have had it, you know. So there's something to be said about summer vacation too, you know.
First thing that I would do when discussing any issue like this is I would ask for parent input as to how they feel about year-round schools. We have a large population who leaves in the summertime to go north, not as much as it used to be, but still a large population that leaves. A large population where students leave here to go visit with dad during the summertime in a split marriage, and they go off and they're gone for the summer. So there are a lot of things that we would need to consider, and I think it would be very important to touch base with our parents and find out what they think about it. Year-round school is a tremendous financial cost. It will cost a lot of money, and that's one thing that I think we need to cost in these days where budgets are tight and where we have to make sure that we keep track of every dime that we spend. I also think that it's a wear on facilities. We don't have that summertime to replenish our facilities, to clean them up, to make sure that they're ready to go for the next school year. So those are the things that I think we would need to look into about year-round school.
When I first started teaching over at Lely High School and walked into the physical plant, I thought, wow, this is a perfect facility for year-round school. But now that I think about it, the wear and tear and the upkeep of that school would be a problem. But then too, on the other hand, we need to provide for some of these students that need the breakfast and lunch programs, and this would be a good opportunity. So maybe a half-day summer school or something that would be more of an enrichment. But I think there are a lot of possibilities as long as the money is there.
I'm not going to repeat everything that Mr. Terry said, but I'm 100% in agreement with his response. Thank you.
I think the biggest thing is you do have to look at other models before going out and really putting a position on something. But I agree with Mr. Terry that talking to constituents is going to be the first thing, and I mentioned that in my introductory statement, that that's the first step to everything, and we have to take everybody's ideas into that, students, parents, and teachers, and how that would affect them, because that's what the system's there for. But overall, we need to look at all options if they're presented to us with concerns. But I'm not sure that a longer school day or a longer school year really solves anything.
One of the most shocking things that you get when you come to this country about public education is how long is summer. I come from a tropical country, so we have summer all year round. So what's the difference? The difference is this country doesn't like a year long school. Is year-round school year. It doesn't. It's against cultural essence of this country. And that's okay. It's the way it is. Is money needed? Yes, it is. A lot of money to have a longer year, provided that things are well done. This country has the money to do it, of course. Just has other priorities. Now, the thing that, in my case, for instance, I have to bring my son to Colombia, so during the summer, he's getting some education. And then in summer, I have to become teacher. No, good for you, good for all of you, but I am not the teacher. So so how is that they teach them during the normal school so I can do something? So I try him to read, to write, to think, to see different things, probably to make my mistakes. I don't know, but it's too long. It's too long. I will, providing that it is possible, I don't think, providing that the school board can do anything about that, but I'm for a longer school year, providing that everything is well done.
I think how to deal with this in the immediate future for Collier County is to make it a school choice issue, allow one or two schools to have that year-round choice for parents who want that for their children, or for students, especially in the lower performing schools, to have that opportunity, because study after study, that is when they lose the most ground against the other students, if you want to talk about the achievement gap, that is over the summertime. So I think having it as a school choice would balance both putting the additional money into those schools, which we already do as an investment in some of the lower performing students, as well as having that as an option for parents. And I do advocate for that for the students whose parents want that and who will benefit from that program.
Well, a year-round school schedule would be good for student information retention. The current schedule is based on an agricultural system where the students had to be off for the summer to help their parents plant and harvest crops. We know that. It would primarily be a scheduling problem and a financial problem, as Mr. Terry said. I think we'd have to go with parental input on that, community input, voter input to see how that would be done. Although I do like Erica's idea of having just a school choice, just certain schools and certain parents involved in that process.
I think I'm going to been asked to ask the next question, Dr. Andler, and this is the question. I know you indicated in the video that you have been a superintendent, I think, for 5 years. I'm not sure that I know where that was, but my question is the role of a superintendent versus your role as a member of the school board. How would you, as a school board member, reduce administrative overhead?
The grisly fact of public education is we all say we want the best for our children. The caveat to that is we want the best for our children if we can afford it. And that is the caveat, and that's the big problem. How do we give the best to our children for the amount of money we've got to work with them? I brought this out before, and I've been kind of condemned for bringing this out, but I'm going to bring it out again because I believe firmly in it. And granted, I was a superintendent of a small district, but as a small district, I learned everything there is to know about superintendency. I learned all the line items.
Mr. Andler, I'm just
Okay.
because I know you're going to get going.
I'm going to go.
We have 5 minutes left.
Okay,
So
I'll go
please
quick.
keep your
Okay.
answer.
Okay, so
fairly
I
short.
learned
Thank you.
everything there was to be about superintendent, and I had 2 good boards. They taught me how to be good boards. They let me go, but then they'd question everything I did. I've got the 24-page job or organizational chart. I see so many positions up at the top that we have to absolutely scrutinize to see if there aren't overlapping activities being done by somebody else. I see assistant superintendent of human capital, assistant superintendent of curriculum materials, deputy superintendent. They answer only to the superintendent. No one answers to them. We've got to make this org chart more efficient, more leaner, and get that money down where we need it at the front lines with the kids and students. I would just love to be able to go through this. And I don't say let's lay people off. A lot of this will be taken care of through attrition. A lot can be done through reassignment. We don't have to hurt anybody's lives, but I think we've got to condense this down a little bit. And I know we're the 43rd biggest school district in the country. We might be the 43rd biggest in the universe, but it doesn't mean there isn't room for taking money away from the top and bringing it down a little lower. Thank you. Sorry.
Just a couple of comments on that. I think that when you look at a 24-page organizational chart, and if you look at Lee County's organizational chart, it's 1 page. The difference is that in Lee County, they just list the major heads of each department, and they have that all in 1 page. They don't tell you everybody they hire. In our chart, we list each department, and under that department, it tells everybody on down to the secretary and everybody else as to who's hired in that department. Now, you can either have a chart that is small, or you can have a chart that tells you everything you have in the district. So you have that choice. We've chosen to be transparent and show you everything we have in the district. So that's why it's 24 pages. I would also point out that in the last 3 years, we have had 3 top-level administrators leave the district: Mr. Butte, Mr. Conti, and Mr. Abelos. Those people were not replaced. Their jobs were spread out and given to other people within the district. So we are making changes there. Our district budget for administration right now is 3.5%, about $14 million out of the operational part of the budget. You know, where do you cut from 14 million? I'm sure we can find some places, and we're constantly looking for that. But our total operational budget, 84% of that is salaries for teachers, support personnel, transportation, and for the administrators at the school level. So that's 84% of the budget. 16% is what we'd have left to cut unless we go in and cut teacher salaries and everything like that. And none of us want to do that. So we're looking, we've cut $40 million in the last 4 years. We're looking to cut some more because we don't want to come back to this district with a referendum again. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have much to add to that, but I have to say that the board made a wise decision financially by signing the superintendent to an additional contract, because I think her value is going to increase, and right now they're saving us some money by doing that.
I would say we need to just ask the tough questions and really look at what the job roles are at the administration level. Until we get in there and ask the questions, we really don't know if there are people there that don't need to be. So those are just the questions that need to be asked. Thank you.
I agree that the looking at positions and what those people are doing are putting themselves in roles that directly affect students. If we have administrators at any level that are doing a job that can be consolidated, we need to be looking at that. And I think the current board has done a fairly good job at doing that so far, and I would just try to continue down that road.
Looking at the ratios between instructional, operational, and administrative expenses, it looks to me that they are reasonable. But as always, and I love when Tom make an accordion with the organizational chart, because it's funny, but the school, Collier has also a 1-page organizational chart. But I believe that to judge if it is reasonable or not, you need to be to judge how results oriented is the staff and what the value added of major positions are in terms of getting those results. Benchmarking is a key issue. I look very quickly to a comparison with Lee County, and what I saw is that Collier does much better. So I think there is always room for improvement, but so far I think it's a reasonable job what they are doing in terms of ratios between the different kind of expenses.
I think that it's easy to look at a budget and the budget book that it's available to us in the public and say, oh, these ratios look reasonable with how much we're spending in the classroom versus at the administrative level. However, I'll just give you an example of where it's deceptive. At the administrative level, you have someone who's selecting curriculum for this district. And what we've heard from teachers is that they get new curriculum sometimes every 2 years, 3 years. They're getting rid of brand new books to have brand new books brought in. Now, those books would be classroom level expenses, but who's driving that expense? Someone in the administration who says we need brand new curriculum this year, although we've only been using the other curriculum for 2 or 3 years. With my budget experience and expertise, and also the experience that I have being in the investment industry, going through a very tough time where we lost 70% of our revenue, but we still maintained, although many others went under. It's about going through that budget, understanding every single thing that's in it, what drives it, what value it's providing, and making sure that it is efficient and it's achieving the bottom line, which for us is service to our clients, but for here in the school district is providing that quality academic education for those students. And I've committed as a board member over the next 4 years to do exactly that and understand everything in the budget and what is driving it and how it affects academics of our students, and making sure that the tough questions are asked, best practices are instilled, so that our budget is as efficient as possible and that our students are getting the benefit of the dollars that we, the taxpayers, are putting in.
How would I reduce overheads? One, inventories. We inventory very little in this district. How do we know what to purchase this year if we don't know what we owned last year? So we need to do inventories. Two, we can reduce administrative numbers and salaries. In the length of time it took for our student population to grow 100%, our administrative population grew 700%. There are cuts we can make there also.
I am familiar with lots of what goes on at the administrative center. I know lots of those people. Very few of them are underworked. Most of them are overworked and are doing multiple jobs. The board also has to be very careful that it does not micromanage the superintendent. And so when you start getting into micromanaging the superintendent, this leads to problems. So you hire the superintendent to manage the district the way that person sees fit, and it is that person that you hold responsible for seeing that the job gets done.
Okay. Mr. Terry, I'm going to ask the last question because we hope to get around everybody twice, but we're just barely going to make once, and we have to go into overtime to do that. You said in your video start to the program that you believe in and stand for more local control and less testing. In your 4 years on the board, has the board achieved more local control? And I speak of that in two senses. One, not only more overall local control from state mandate, but more importantly, local control school by school, so that each school has some local control. And also, has there been a significant reduction in locally mandated testing as opposed to state mandated testing? And the reason I ask that is teachers have been telling me that they feel like the district has promulgated more testing and that schools have less flexibility to innovate. And I know you disagree with that, but I'd love to hear you explain it.
Well, I do know that we do some local testing. I do know that testing has been reduced, especially the benchmarks tests. I believe one of those tests during the year, the 3 have been reduced. Benchmark tests are basically what teachers used to do anyway. When you got a new class, you gave them a benchmark test so you'd find out where students are in that class. And then as you go through the year, you give benchmark tests again as you go through the year, and that tells you what you need to do and what areas you need to work in. As far as the state level, as far as local control, we've been talking with people at the state and in Tallahassee and the legislature to try to get them to grant more local control to the districts. I think that the testing program in the district is way too much in terms of of state tests. I would be all for end-of-course tests. I think they can be very valuable, but I would do away with the high-stakes testing and go strictly with the end-of-course tests, at least at the high school and possibly the middle school level. So I've worked at Tallahassee for some of those, and have been working with the superintendent to make sure that we're not over-testing at the local level.
What about the local control at the individual schools?
Local control individual schools, we've made some changes there. When the superintendent first came in, she felt she needed to be in control of those schools at that time in terms of administration. We've changed that now, and principals now this year are actually interviewing and hiring their own assistants, which is a good thing because that gives the school more local control of what's going on within their own buildings.
There's really not much to say about the high-stakes testing, except that I would ask everyone in this room to write a letter to their legislator and tell them just how upset you are about it and how much time it takes away from the teacher-student relationship.
I would like to see more control at the individual schools. Each school is very different depending on which part of the community you are in. So we're hiring these principals to lead in these schools, and they know their individual needs of their students, and they're working with their staff. So one thing I would like to see is less principal shuffle so that we can create some stability in our schools for our teachers and for our students. As far as the testing, I would love if this district for 1 year put aside, don't worry about what the test scores are. Let's focus on good teaching and implementing a great curriculum. And then the test results should speak for itself. Let's not emphasize the test. Let's focus on just education again. I can't imagine how great this would be for not only our teachers, but for the students. Thank you.
I agree with Mr. Terry that we're on a very strong trend locally, giving principals and leaders in local schools additional responsibilities and ways that they can do things to develop that culture that's needed at those individual schools. And I think we're seeing that trend, and I would work to continue that. As far as testing is concerned at the state level, it is at the state level, and school board members need to be prepared to be advocates to Tallahassee and Washington, D.C. to be able to solve those problems. And I'm the only person in my race who has done that and been successful in passing legislation at the higher education level, where we took 12 years to pass in-state tuition for veterans, and we were able to finally be successful in that. So things do take time, but board members need to be effective advocates in order to get the job done, and I will get the job done.
In terms of local control at school level, I think there are a good experience in terms of developing leadership. So it's not just giving them the control, but they need to be real leaders. Many are, and they need to develop, especially the principals, a good relationship in terms of leadership and abilities to lead the school within parents and their relationships. In terms of testing, I am against high stakes testing, and by personal experience, I would say I love just end of the course testing. That's it.
I believe in teachers dictating their test. In the beginning of the year, when they get their students, they can put a test out there for the students, find out where the students are, and then they can teach them, and they can also administer the test at the end of the year to see how the students have progressed. That's why they are the professionals in the classroom, and they should have the ability to do that. I'm not against all accountability testing coming from the state level, but I am against the overemphasis on accountability testing, including FCAT pep rallies, T-shirts, music videos, and the type of things that go on in our elementary schools where our children are doing flash mobs to get ready for the FCAT test. The emphasis on the test is unbelievable. I would like to see where when I was a student, you were told the day before, get a good night's sleep and eat breakfast tomorrow, you're having a test. And if we're focusing our efforts on education and putting all of our time into that quality education the students need, we can do the same thing, and we won't be stressing out our students so much that they're crying and they're not doing well on the test simply because they know the high stakes nature of it. It is a battle at the state level, and I've been an advocate at bringing in speakers for parents to understand what they can do to make a difference at the state level. That's going to be a continued battle. But really, as a school district, we have to make a decision that we're going to do what's best for our kids, not what's best for the state test.
Testing is going to increase dramatically. This year, we're required to have 724 end-of-course tests. And we're going to end up teaching to the test, which happens with FCAT and all the end-of-course tests. We're just going to increase end-of-course testing, which means less time actually teaching the students. The good news is we have some local control. It's in that we have to write 435 of those tests ourselves at a great cost, unfunded and unnecessary.
As far as local testing, my own personal feeling would be the only person making a decision about who and what test should be given is the classroom teacher. Not sure that anything else has to be done. That said for that kind of testing. As far as a little history here, in 1977 when the state started this testing stuff, we tested 3 grades, 1 at the elementary, 1 at the middle, and 1 at high school. And the testing was to test where the kids were so that we then provided remediation so that they were prepared to get a high school diploma that meant something. It was called minimum basic skills testing. Somewhere in the 90s, again, our state legislature decided to start grading the schools based upon how the kids did on the test and start rewarding teachers and principals and eventually superintendents on how well the students did on the test. This created high stakes testing. Teachers didn't create it. It was the outside pressure that we all have to get. Every school has to be an A school, which, by the way, is impossible. Recently the legislature decided to have 300, the lowest 300 schools labeled. I hate to tell you this, but when you say that, there are going to be 300 schools labeled the lowest in the state. It's just mathematically impossible not to have that happen. Somebody's going to be in that group of 300. This is outside sources telling, particularly state legislators, and I often said I wanted them to have to take the test because I don't think most of them could pass it, which I did suggest back then. So that's my feeling on the testing. Again, locally, I'd like to see teachers making those decisions. And again, as was stated, all of you out there who are against it, write your legislators and tell them you hate high stakes testing. That's the only way things are going to change.
You've heard the controversy between the core curriculum being mandated by the state and the high stakes testing. The new standards-based test is just FCAT 3.0. It's going to be the same nightmare. What are we going to do about this controversy? I'm sure if we're having this controversy in Collier County, Lee County, Palm Beach County, Dade, we're all throughout the state having the same controversy. If enough people in this state feel as strongly as we do about not having a stringent core curriculum, if we think that there's too much testing, that's a huge block in Tallahassee. I mean, we've got to organize this on a state level and get these school districts thinking on the same wavelength and bringing this to the state. A few years ago, and this gets back to our old founding fathers, a few years ago, the Coast Guard tried to implement a new stamp for all boaters. Well, the boaters refused to buy that stamp. The Coast Guard rescinded the stamp. We have something in our country called nonviolent civil disobedience. If the public feels strongly about something, we should lobby and lobby hard and do something about it. If not, we're going to get what we don't ask for. We're just not making it vocal enough.
Okay. Well, I would like to thank, first of all of the candidates for participating. You all did a fantastic job. I would like to thank my fellow moderators, Alan and Dudley, who also did a fantastic job. And to our...
Actually, I feel like I need some equal time.
Too bad.
And thank you to our audience and the people who watched it streaming. And please, everyone, go vote August 26th. Make your voice heard. Thank you so much.